Happy draft season, Chiefs Kingdom. Hollywood Brown is a Chief. What does he change about the draft and wide receivers? Does this possibly shift their focus to offensive tackle or a tight end who may or may not fall in striking distance? Plus, who are some running backs to fill the room with pop? All that and more. This is Gridiron Gambit.
Welcome, Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks for tuning in to this Red Kingdom Media production, bringing you raw, authentic Chiefs coverage. Make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on your team. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
Let's work. Hey.
What is up, everybody? This is a Saturday edition of the Gridiron Gambit. I'm your host, Clinton, and joined with me for this edition is my pals, Rod and Lonnie. How are we doing?
Good. Just celebrating this Good Red Friday.
Yes, sir. Feeling really good and blessed.
That's right. We're all just kind of hanging around waiting for some Chiefs news to pop up, kind of prepping this draft-centric show. Of course, we do once every week. And, of course, the first part of it had to be hijacked because the Kansas City Chiefs have officially signed Orlando Brown to a one-year contract worth nearly $11 million if everything goes well, but more likely just reads as a $7 million contract. I think my first general thoughts when I heard that was I called it, but it would have made me feel a little better if it was more long-term. But I can't complain because they got the player that I wanted, because every other player on the market just did not fit either financially or age-wise. And I think this was one of those perfect scenarios, and it just worked out favorably for the Chiefs. The fact that Hollywood Brown could land here in Kansas City, basically hype it up for a few days. Talking to say, hey, yo, Creed, get me to Kansas City. But such a good move. It allows this flexibility now. Obviously, you like to maybe see a couple more moves made for the wide receiving position. But honestly, there are some people amongst the kingdom that say, give Sky Moore another year, give Kadarius Toney another year, give those players along with a Rashee Rice, along with a Hollywood Brown, that reliable Justin Watson. Those players aren't going away. So see how that combination works. But some are saying it might end up changing the draft strategy for Brett Veach and whether or not he decides he may or may not want to take some wide receivers. But Lonnie, what are your initial thoughts about Hollywood Brown landing in Kansas City on a one-year deal?
Yeah, it's a perfect fit. I think it's very self-explanatory. Hollywood didn't have the best numbers coming off of last year, especially the year before last, having that injury, the heel injury that hampered him all year long. And he got traded to AZ, never got the contract that he was coveting with AZ. Just kind of got traded in the middle of that to see if he could prove it. I feel like this is a chance for this guy to come in and prove it and make some big money in the following year. As he's seen, a lot of people sign one-year deals with the Chiefs, and a lot of people win Super Bowls. And usually Super Bowls mean dollars, especially for a younger guy that's younger in his career like him. So I was ecstatic for Hollywood Brown. Like you said, we heard a lot about it. I seen him on Twitch saying he was texting Creed back and forth. So just kind of like they were doing some tampering during the legal tampering period, I guess, really talking to each other, getting to know each other. I seen he got a text from Coach Reed. So I think it all makes sense. It's a perfect marriage. For both parties. He's a field stretcher. We need a bomb threat in there. We got a guy that can really get it between the hashes, and a guy that can get it outside the numbers. We just needed a guy that can really just take the top off of defenses, and Hollywood is that guy. He's been that guy since he was in Baltimore. We're just going to see if we can get him to another 1,000-yard season. I feel like if we can get another wide receiver to do that, and really help Travis Kelce out, I think that'll take a lot off his plate. Give us some more years to Travis Kelce, too. Add a couple years on his career. Not making him have to be that number one guy, but I love the move for Hollywood Brown. I think this is what a lot of contracts look like for any wide receivers that are coming to the Kansas City Chiefs just for any time soon. I think MVS messed that multi-year deal up for wide receivers. I think it'll always just be kind of a prove it thing if you're coming to KC, unless you're like a defensive lineman, safety, or a real position of need that has just kind of been proven. So I think it was perfect. It's a perfect marriage for both parties.
Yeah, for me, I'm one of the. I feel the same way for him. I feel like this is more of instead of like a 1 year prove it deal, it's like a 1 year redemption year. Um, he has some bad luck starting off. You know, he's more like you said, more of a stretch player. You know, getting drafted with Baltimore, he was put in a position to try to put a band-aid over a situation that organization was trying to cover up, and he wasn't being used properly. And so instead of fixing the problem, and they just went ahead and let's just get rid of him because we, we're not going to address the real problem. And so now that really put a bad stitch on his career. Also now going to Arizona, and we all know how that field is. Also, and so that heel injury makes me think: was it him or was it the field that caused the injury? Because we saw multiple players get hurt on that field. So then now I really feel like this is the opportunity for him to now have a MVP quarterback, now be in a great situation, in a situation that not necessarily say, oh, we need him, to say we want him. And that to me, I really feel like it's going to get more, especially him having MVS snaps. And what MVS could not capitalize on, I think Hollywood Brown can capitalize on that and more. Because especially looking at the expected yards to gain that Mahomes had when you look at the drop passes. Hollywood Brown is getting 1,000 yards with this offense. All he needs to do, he don't have to worry about trying to, you know, be the next cheater. If you just be himself, this offense alone is going to give him about a little over about I say around 1,300 yards, and that's just on the simple fact of Mahomes himself, because he's literally taking all those deep passes that Watson had, that MVS had, and what McCole Hardman had. He's taking all that and he's going to capitalize on that.
Mm-hmm. So Marquise Brown, he's not had a season where he hasn't had at least 100 targets, other than being injured. So that, and say what you want about Tyreek Hill, his number one complaint was that he still wasn't getting the ball enough here. I think if Marquise gets close to 100, that would be incredible. Marquez got about 80 so in his final year, and obviously there were plenty of times we'd like some of those targets back, and other times maybe he needed more to get his confidence back. But Rod, where do you see Hollywood Brown playing on this offense? What receiver role do you see him lined up as?
I see him more. He's automatically being the true Z. He's taking every opportunity that MVS had. But because the fact that this West Coast offense has a bit of a modern twang to it, it has a lot of more motion. So trying to treat him as if he's a traditional Z receiver, you're gonna get burned with the quick slant, quick, fast, in a hurry. You're gonna get burned with the jet sweeps. You're gonna get burned real quickly just on the simple quote unquote routes that will get him open. And I, but even though he's technically a true Z, Andy Reid is going to use him in the X receiver role, because of the versatility of Rashid Rice, and now you have Travis Kelce in there. You last thing you want to do is leave Hollywood Brown 1-on-1, and he showed that with Arizona. In 1-on-1 coverage, he's beating you, especially if you pressed up. He's beating you. And that right there to me that makes a really big difference. Him being at the Z position, that opens up the Chiefs to get a big time X receiver, which good luck trying to cover this team. You're going to see more zone than anything.
So that's the second part of the first segment we got. But before we officially transition into who else draft wise could be a good fit for Hollywood Brown. Um, so if Hollywood officially takes the Z position, there's people saying that Sky Moore didn't get his fair shot last season, and that if you put him in the slot, then he will truly shine. So, for the sake of the argument, put him in the slot and let him do there. Could you see Rashee Rice be in big body X wide receiver?
I can. I think that's one of the purpose of them drafting him because of how strong he is. The only difference of it is that slot receiver role is a whole lot harder than people think it is. And that was one of the things that Sky Moore had a problem with is understanding coverage and leverage. Is sometimes it was some routes, even though you were called to run a whip route, cut it short. He could not recognize the fact that the guy that's covering you is not that linebacker. Cause now that linebacker blitz. The one who's covering you is a safety. He's 15 yards back. Why are you running all the way to him? Turn that route to a hitch and be wide open. And so that was the bit of the problem that Sky Moore had, and that him understanding what he had to do, and then it was his confidence. His confidence really, really brought him down, and that was a big thing that really hurt. And getting injured after that really didn't help at all. So that's why I see the Chiefs looking at another a true X receiver because they like the versatility in Rashee Rice. And so, I wrote an article about, the top 10 receivers that fit for the system, not just the guys in this draft, but what fits for Andy Reid's system. And my top 5 guys are the guys I believe that Brett Veach is really targeted in this draft.
All right, there you go. You already got the little teaser out of Rod. If you want to hear the his top 5 fits for the Chiefs, then you're gonna have to go subscribe to our Substack, and that's not all that's up there. We've got our daily update, and anytime you see any breaking news, we've got a Blitz brief out there dropping an article about the same topic. So if you want your Chiefs news coverage, make sure you're stopping by Red Kingdom Media to get it for you. With that, make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Red Kingdom Media. Subscribe to our Substack. Follow us on Spotify. Rate us 5 stars. If you're a local business and you're interested in possibly sponsoring us or being in some sort of business partnership with each other, let us know. We'd love to have that conversation. So we talked about wide receiver, and now all the talk is, does that mean all the attention about the Chiefs need a wide receiver and all that being shifted away? So, Lonnie, do you feel like this move immediately shifts that point of view to, say, an offensive tackle, or are you staying put in your strategy?
Yeah, so no, I believe that we'll still probably go wide receiver, being that we had those struggles that we had last year, with the non explosiveness, the drops, not being able to have a lot of production at the wide receiver position. I think still go and draft a wide receiver. I don't see us getting a tackle like I just mentioned to you guys before we got on. I don't think that tackle position continues to need to be a revolving door. I feel like it's been a revolving door for several years now, and we've been able to patch it with different guys like Orlando Brown, and to the likes of Jawan Taylor, Donovan Smith, just to several different guys ever since we lost Mitch Morris and Eric Fisher, and it's worked. But I feel like eventually you have to go draft a guy that you know is going to work for sure, and get a guy in there that's going to be Mahomes is going to know is there for years to come. Like I said, no one likes to get tackles. Veterans, a lot of veteran tackles don't like to not know where their quarterback is going to be in their set. Mahomes is not the traditional quarterback taking a regular 70-step drop every time. It may be 11 here, maybe 8 here. I may cut it short because of the rush here. So it's just you really want to get somebody that's comfortable I feel like in their sets, that understands the quarterback, not someone that's just continuing to come in that's new. So I just don't think they do that. I think they go get a wide receiver there.
All right,
Yeah,
Rod.
I agree with that. If they do get a tackle, I see it being later in the draft, getting more of an athletic tackle who is able to hold his own on the island due to the fact that Mahomes' drop set is always different. But I got faith in Wanye Morris, though. I got faith in Wanye Morris. They giving him a legit shot, probably get somebody in competition. So to me, my question would be my answer, not my question. My answer would be they would go for a wide receiver. If they go for a tackle, it's probably because they see him leaving. That's the guy that they see very high in the draft on their board, and they see him available. But other than that, I really think they're going for solidifying the longevity of the overall offense.
Fair enough. I think I'm kind of in the middle of this. I don't think it's swayed it one way or the other, and I think that offensive tackle is still a position that the Chiefs would like to upgrade. And to Lonnie's point, the revolving door of left tackle doesn't seem a good strategy to pair with your Super Bowl winning quarterback in the franchise, but they've been able to make do. The whole conversation about offensive tackles in the first round is you got to get up high to get the good ones, because even then, once you start taking tackles, they eventually turn into guards in the NFL, and that the like biggest distance in talent at a position is offensive line. So when teams find good offensive linemen, they draft them, they take them early, and they keep them. So you can argue about how good you think a certain offensive lineman is, but because that guy is so stable and holds the position, that's all he's asked. And that's prime what you're asked of a left tackle. So to me, I'm still on the fence where if there is somebody near like approaching pick 15 and he's literally like the second best tackle on your board and you literally think he could be starting day one, I think you do it. I don't think that it completely takes wide receiver out of the draft conversation. And if there's a player falling towards the bottom of the first round that they like, I think they'll take him if all the other moves are exhausted. But the Chiefs have demonstrated at this point, so you can argue 2020, but from this point forward, they use their first pick on linemen or cornerbacks or these big positions that are harder to find towards the later of the draft. They've been good at it. They found cornerbacks that are good later in the draft. They found offensive linemen, but the old adage is everybody pays attention to the first 32 picks of a mock draft because those are the best in your mind, 32 best players. But that doesn't mean that that's who's getting picked and when they're getting picked. Teams have their own decisions. They've got their own strategies. They've got their own evaluations on a player. They've done some random extra tests that the media doesn't know about. So I think we're basically still where we were prior to signing, but now we'll feel better if the first round passes and it isn't a wide receiver, or say it isn't the second round or the third round, whatever the case. You know that eventually you're going to throw a body out there because this is Patrick Mahomes. Other than one draft, there has not been a draft where Brett Veach doesn't give Patrick Mahomes a weapon of some kind, even if it's Noah Gray or Clyde Edwards-Helaire like it was supposed to be. So Mahomes will get some targets of some kind, but we'll find out once the draft rolls around if it's going to be on the wide receiver side or if some of the other positions start to become a hot topic about that. Anything you guys want to add to this wide receiver or offensive tackle segment?
Yeah, nothing for me.
Yeah, I look at the desperation of these teams. We've seen the Chargers get rid of everyone except Quentin Johnson. Um, they depleted their whole entire offense except their offensive line. I see them being extremely desperate, trying to get a new weapon, especially having a new head coach, and they want to try to, make it look like they're doing something. But I see them being very desperate in a wide receiver. So um, I think Brett Veach will be very mindful for a particular player that he really wants. It's always the guy that they not talking about. They will talk about everyone else. It's the guy that they're not talking about is the one who they want to keep for
Right.
themselves.
And I think that's kind of the storyline about Rashee Rice last year. All of us knew Rashee Rice as a good prospect, but the fact that he was a quote third round prospect and the Chiefs picked him in the second round made it this big deal. Well, the Chiefs had their hand on him, and he was as good. He was as good as a second round pick to them because they had already seen it with their own eyes. COVID year kind of messed stuff up and just made people assume you could figure out all these things without getting a player directly sitting next to them, seeing how they take in information, watching them actually throw a pass, lift their weights, whatever it is, with your own eyes and not just with hearsay. So that's what I want to see is this um this hand-picked element. So it didn't work with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and that's one thing, but just keep going to the well. Like, Patrick is the type of guy who wants to play football when football is over. So you keep doing that, and you let that help your front office, and keep utilizing that strategy.
And I think Patrick is their biggest scout. His workouts in Texas makes a very, very big difference.
Right.
And it's not like, oh, well, he's trying to see who. Like, no, they just going down there to work out. And it's just easy for him to send a text message like, hey, I like this guy right here. I like
Yep.
this guy. And I think that made a very, very big difference. Everyone was looking at Quentin Johnson saying that, oh, the Chiefs liked him, but it was Rashee Rice that's who Mahomes liked, and that's who, they went after.
So we'll have to see once the draft gets closer who and what kind of positions start getting passes from Mahomes.
Yeah.
If we start seeing some tight ends being listed, that might raise some eyebrows. So
Oh, yeah.
speaking of tight ends, we got to talk about the Georgia tight end Brock Bowers. You guys are a lot more on the side of media than I am. That he's not participating in any drills, guarantees. He knows where he thinks he's going, but some believe that this is making him drop down the board. Uh, up until the Chargers got rid of every single wide receiver on their roster, I was saying that's where he's going, is number 5. But now at least he might start falling a little bit. But some people out there, and Rod, you included, believe that he could possibly start falling mid to even the bottom of the first round. So tell us why you think that is, and the actual chance of the Chiefs possibly landing this great tight end.
I see in Brock Bauer falling somewhere in the mid-20s, due to the fact that he has a hamstring injury that he is dealing with right now. Now, that was the cause of him not participating at the combine and him not participating in his pro day as well. He is still nursing a hamstring injury that he was suffering with through the second half of the season, where he was a little bit off on, especially in the national championship game and the college football playoffs, and he's still dealing with that injury. And to me, that draws a lot of concern. There was a lot of time between that game and now, and you had a lot of time. If it was just a small injury, like they was trying to say, like they was telling the media that it is, it wouldn't have been. He should have been able to participate, but he didn't. He's still showing that that injury is bothering him. He can't run. It is really bothering him. That's a very big concern. And if you having that type of injury as a tight end, I don't see you going in the top 5. I don't see you going in the top 10. So that's why I really feel like he's falling.
All right, Lonnie, your thoughts?
Yeah, and I feel like I'm hoping and praying that Rod's words come to fruition for the Chiefs, and for any team that is down there in that lower part, because usually those are the better teams, which gives Brock Bowers a likely more chance of him surviving in the NFL, other than being used to oblivion, which they will probably just try and patch you up, shoot you up, and make sure that you're out there when you're going to go anywhere in that top 5 or top 10. So I still think someone reaches for Brock Bowers here, unfortunately. Like I was sharing with you guys before, I just don't feel like they let those teams that are going to be competing, or even get down there to the area where the Chiefs can even decide to package some picks together and trade up. I just don't see them letting that type of game changer get to that area in the draft to where they have a chance to really shift the paradigm of the NFL once again and get two generational talents in the same room. That's almost just, I feel like, too perfect of a situation. Him coming here and being able to sit behind one of the best ever, limited snaps, to really be able to nurse himself back to health. It's just too much of a perfect situation for this young guy, unfortunately, that has a ton of potential. And we know how that just goes in the NFL. A team reaches and grabs you. A lot of Bengals, someone of that nature, as before. It's just because they got rid of Irv Smith and they're offloading guys too, trying to get younger, get a game changer at that position. So I could just see different teams just really trying to take that risk and reaching for a guy and to make sure that those teams don't get him like us.
Well, I mean, I could call out last season as an example. Buffalo trades up in the draft to take Dalton Kincaid at pick 25. He was the first tight end picked. He was first round. Sam Laporta goes early second round, and he's a Pro Bowler. So it's clear that tight end has become, especially with Travis Kelce and Gronk before that, and Kittle as well as a pair. It's clear that tight end is becoming this like coveted offensive position. So that's why, to me, I just don't see this anywhere remotely possible. And not to say, he goes number 5 now, but I still don't think he gets anywhere close to 15 or so, because to Lonnie's point, there's not going to be a dominant offensive weapon that another team, especially in the AFC, that isn't scared out of their mind for Kansas City to get that player. So that's going to happen to a wide receiver or two, probably called out in your article, and it's most likely going to be the case with Brock Bowers here. So my thought is, let's focus on rounds 2 through 5. One name that comes out, Theo Johnson at Penn State. The joke is coming out of a running scheme. You're going to be a dominant NFL tight end. You never having to actually pass. You're the perfect player because you know how to do everything. And passing is like the last thing you end up doing in college, and then it's the thing you do the most in the NFL. So that I don't think it's remotely close. I think we want to make this happen. We're trying to will this here, but I just don't think there's enough precedent to say this player is injured and therefore gets pushed down super far. Jeffrey Simmons from Tennessee comes to mind as a player that was already hurt being drafted, and the team basically knew they weren't getting that player for like the first year, and they didn't care, and they knew that the value was still there, losing the first year out of it because of how good of a player that is. So I just don't feel like the NFL is at this point so adverse to injury, unless there's proven track record of continuous injuries that starts to raise red flags.
Yeah, and I will play devil's advocate. I know we're probably wrapping up on this. Here, DK Metcalf, we have seen it before.
Yeah.
We have seen people spiral. There have been stories. And I just will say this in general about this draft. There have been a lot of guys sitting out and not participating in a lot of things that are just like abnormal. A lot of guys going down and just letting teams build their own perception of the athlete, which I feel like there's no problem doing that. But when doing that, you're not raising your stock any by not participating. If anything, you're hurting yourself by not showing, okay, I'm gonna at least get out here and try and give it all I got. Be out here with the team, show that I really like to get around here with my boys, do my fundamental work, and really just show what I got. So I don't think you're helping yourself, whether that be Marvin Harrison Jr., whether that be Brock Bowers, whether that be any of those guys, Caleb Williams, any of those guys that set out of that draft combine. I think you kind of hurt your stock more than you helped yourself just doing that. Period. I just feel like it's just not a good look. I heard a lot of different guys on NFL Network even talking about it, how they feel like you're just kind of like you're trying to sit out like a sore thumb when you're doing stuff like that, kind of stepping away from the group. Everybody else is out there in underwear and t-shirts and running their 40s, and you're standing there in a jumpsuit talking to Deion Sanders and the rest of the gang. So, I mean, I just don't think you're helping yourself at all.
That's fair.
I agree with that as well. I also look at it like you getting this once in a lifetime chance to show your skills. If you're trying to bank on the individual team workouts, each team only getting a certain amount of players they can work out and they can see, and to sit back and really think that, well, I'm gonna just hold off and hold off and hold off. That's going to raise speculations, and all it takes is the wrong person to raise speculations. And certain teams have certain people that they don't want to raise speculation with. And for the Chiefs, it's the medical staff. If everyone knows that Brett Veach and Andy Reid goes by what their medical team say, if this guy is somewhat hurt, we're gonna move on. That's why um, the the story around Felix
Yeah,
uh,
I would
about
say that.
his injury, and he did come to the individual workouts, but Andy Reid didn't have him work out. No, they had a conversation with him. How bad is your injury? Or what's really going on with it? Is it okay? I know it's your hand, but is it your dominant hand? And everything. And I think that was part of the reason why he came along slowly, because they did not want to risk any further injury. But at the same time, he kind of set himself back, even though he can't be able to get drafted by us. But it's the simple fact of how bad is too bad. The medical staff said, well, he's tough. He can work it out. He's a rookie. You can bring him on slowly. It's not like it was a desperate need. That's why they went to go get Charles Omenihu. So it won't be big of a desperate need. But for some of these guys like Caleb Williams, and that's very, very tough. Marvin Harrison, if you're not working out, everybody can watch the same tape and have a different output on it. So it's kind of hard to try to bank on these individual teams' workout.
So, go ahead, Lonnie.
And I say, I just feel like it's a part, and maybe a thing too where we have some collusion going on, where people are just colluding to try and get themselves to better teams. We all know in the NFL,
Mhm.
it's just like every other league. The bad teams pick at the top, and sometimes I think it may be some collusion, and some
Mm.
people may be trying to get themselves to competitive teams instead of being where.
So I'm kind of on the opposite fence as y'all, and then I'll state my case and leave out of it. But there's people that train to do better at the combine just to get their draft stock up, and then they don't do well in the NFL. There's Tom Brady, who can't do a combine drill to save his life, who's the greatest NFL player of all time. There's these NFL pro days where players are making sure they get specific teammates to be in drills to make sure that they look better in those drills. So don't put all this stock into what it's showing around being a football player if it's not the footage of them playing a football game on the field with the referee and the ball on the field and the score mattering. That's my thought. Is we can combine and pro day to death. If they look good when the game's on, that's all you really need to see. And everything else is just trying to either unconvince you of what you already know or surefire your decision that you've already made prematurely. So
See, and look, and the Clinton, you're the perfect agent at this point because that's what those guys' agents are telling them, and that's why I said there may be some collusion going on here. Maybe you don't do the workout, let your stock drop. Your stock drops, well, who cares? Once you get under 10, you're probably going to a competitive team. Who cares? So I mean, let the tape speak for itself, and that's kind of what I was talking to. Just speaking off air, and I know we're off subject here for a little bit, but that's what I kind of think may be happening. Let my tape speak for itself. I'll let I'll let my season be my tape, and then you decide if you want to let me go at 25 or you want to let me go at 10. So let that be the deciding factor. And like you said, let all that other stuff be water under the bridge. Why do you need me to come here so you can make me look like CJ Stroud and tell me that I passed the test? I didn't do it good on the IQ test. So like, so they have the right. They may have agents telling them to go in a different angle too. So it's a lot, but I just wanted to play devil's advocate there and say that this is different. We haven't seen this before, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see this more in the NFL. Just guys like, I don't want to go, and I'm just probably won't do it. And if I get down to 25.
That's a fair point. And it used to be like, I want to make sure I go within a certain pick in the top. Now it might be, I don't want to go to a team that's only winning 2 games next season also, that just won 2 games this season. Mm-hmm. So
that makes me think about, the CJ Stroud situation really changes a lot of my perspective because I forgot about that situation. And now that makes me rethink about what Caleb Williams said, saying that he don't want to go to the Bears, but maybe he's saying that because he's looking at what the Bears doing to Justin Fields. Like, what if y'all just pass up on me 2 years later? Because I got 3 different head coaches in the office and 2 different offensive coordinators in 3 years. So, that start to make sense now.
The NFL is wild. When y'all said it earlier. So, okay, well, we've got off the rails a little bit, but our final topic has to do with, of all things, the running backs. We all know there is only one Chiefs running back on the roster, and it is Isiah Pacheco, and he's the starter, no doubt about it. But obviously, running back is a volatile position. You need several of them throughout the season. Knock on wood, Isiah Pacheco did get hurt for a little bit and has every season he's been here so far. So you need a backup running back no matter what. So, Lonnie, we'll start with you. Who are some running backs in the draft process that you are looking at as potential backups?
Yeah, so I gotta be the guy Bucky Williams out of Oregon. One of I love him. Just a little guy, explosive guy out of Oregon. If you haven't seen him, I suggest you guys go look up the tape. Just take a couple looks at him. This is like we and Rob were talking about before off air. Like you said, a track guy, a guy that is a speed guy. He fits the Brett Veach system. Even if it's not in the backfield as a running back, he will be used as a pass catcher on screens, tunnel screens, jackrabbit screens, with just different things on the inside, jet sweeps. Andy Reid will find a constructive way, a creative way to get the ball in this guy's hands. I just see him being super dynamic. I don't know if this is a guy that people reach for, just being how dynamic he was at Oregon. So I'm hoping that he's around that 6-7 round where we're able to go and get him. But being how the running back market is, I don't know if people even want to reach that far. But this is a guy that is super duper explosive, and that's somebody I would love to see with Patrick
Mahomes. Rod, who are some other running backs in this draft cycle that's got you pondering?
I got 2 guys in mind that I'm sitting back and watching and really keeping my eyes on. I like my guy out of MU, MIZ or ZOU. I like my guy Cody Schrader. He had to run through the SEC. He had to run through the SEC. He had to really put, go through some grown men. Only one who sit there and really made a dominant force in the SEC is Derrick Henry. And other than that, only thing that's coming out of SEC is either a quarterback, but straight wide receivers. Wide receivers run the game, or defensive players run the game through the SEC. And if you're looking for a good running back, I'm thinking more guys starting to look at the Pac-12, the Big Ten, for that type of running back because of the style of play that they like to play. But Cody Schrader, what he did at Mizzou is really, really good, especially in the screen game and running between the tackles. Mizzou runs a lot of gap schemes running, and they run a lot of screenplays. And to do what he did in the SEC was really good. The one game I would like to point out is the game against LSU. Even though they lost, if you watch that game, you're gonna end up leaving that. Stop watching. The minute you get to the end of that game, you're gonna look at it and like, if they gave him the ball in the middle of the fourth quarter, or even at the end of the fourth quarter, give him the ball. They win that game. They are beating LSU. And better yet, here's another game to watch. Georgia. That's another game. Even the almighty Georgia had a hard time stopping Cody Schrader. So I like him. Another dark horse guy that I really like. A lot of people not talking about him, but I like him since watching him in the combine. I like Frank Gore Jr. He's a big body, solid guy who could run between the tackles, who got some juice to him. He could be real good as a third down running back. And that short yardage situation, the situation that we need at the Chiefs is a short yardage running back. And that's someone who I would like to look at in the draft. But Cody Schrader is my guy that I would like to look at in the draft.
All right. Shout out to our Brett Veach, not the real Chiefs Brett Veach, but our Red Kingdom Media's Brett Veach. He shouts out Ray Davis from Kentucky and Dylan Johnson from Washington as some of his favorites. I'll just sprinkle a Jonathan Brooks and a Blake Corum in there as some guys who intrigue me, but knowing that number 10 is my running back on the team, I never can get myself excited to figure out backups. So I'll be the outside the trenches answer, and I'll bring up the rumors that J.K. Dobbins might be potentially tied to here, and he's gotten just the worst luck out there in Baltimore. And the worst thing as a running back is to be injured. And the more injuries that pile on, the less your career seems to progress. So if the injury clears up, that is a pairing that definitely intrigues me. And the 1-2 punch of Pacheco and Dobbins could be almost as scary as the Derrick Henry dream I had for that day until Baltimore snatched him up. Because I'll always want this team to be a power running team because, well, I'm just nerdy like that. And I like defensive football. But go ahead.
Like I said, that goes back to what Lonnie said. Nobody is not letting the Chiefs be great right now. They are not even thinking about letting Derrick Henry go on a flight that goes too far northwest from Tennessee. You're going straight north to Baltimore, and they're going to sit here and give you whatever it takes to get you there. They are not. No, they're. The last thing any team want to do, and Isiah Pacheco showed that you do not want to give Patrick Mahomes a run game. And I really felt like that was the real underlining headline of them winning the Super Bowl. A run game and a defense. And that's the last thing you need is to have Patrick Mahomes having a run game. That play action will be nasty because you got to keep 8 in the box. You have to honor the.
And that's why I think the Chiefs, and I'll leave with this statement. I think Clinton even said it. Seeing Mahomes win the Super Bowl the way he won the Super Bowl, I think just says a lot. Being that we won on defense, we did with a defensive team, kind of like with the defensive led scheme, more of like that 06 Patriots where we're running the ball, handing it off, really got a nasty, gritty type wins. To come and see how we're going to be able to win next year is going to be a masterclass. When you have to see somebody that has to learn the run game and learn to be patient, you basically turn this man into Tom Brady, like for a season. So it's like, I don't know where you go. Like he's seen a lot. So yeah, I think the running back role will be pivotal this season, just because he's gonna lean on it a lot, because we leaned on it this year and then with nothing but success. Like I said, we're not gonna be disappointed if he hands it off to 10, 20 times a game. We won't be. I don't think no one in the Chiefs fandom will be, and I don't think he'll be disappointed. I think he understood this year that that's what it took to win me a Super Bowl and keep me from having to throw 30 passes and look like a fool on a regular basis. So I think it'll be big.
And on the add on to it, he got comfortable with it. He got comfortable taking what the defense gave him, but at the same time, it's like, you can't only go zero coverage. You cover zero. You can only do that so many times. That's why San Francisco had to call that timeout. Stop going cover zero. He sees that from a mile away, and they check into that to pick you apart. But also, you can only go cover 3 for so long. You leave that box empty. Isiah Pacheco getting 5, 6, 7, 8 yards of carry. They're going to keep running it and running it and running it until you load up that box. And then that's where, just like you said, Clint, you gave the most important stat. MVS had 80 targets. They had to honor that run for Patrick Mahomes to get 80 targets to MVS. And majority of those targets was deep. They had to honor that run. Having Hollywood solidify that, but that running game is going to cause problems. And Mahomes got very comfortable with that. Now he's entering into his Tom Brady era, and that's the last thing the league needs to happen.
No doubt about it. I think my kind of transition from that is it's allowed the Chiefs to be flexible. Last year, it felt like they were kind of having their hand tied up in what they wanted to do and what actually worked. I think at this point, with what's taken place, they've done enough moves to give themselves flexibility to go into whatever scheme and run any type of play that they want. So make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Red Kingdom Media. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X, all websites. Obviously, subscribe to our daily update on our Substack, and also check out Rod's latest article on the potential wide receiver targets that Chef Veach could be looking at in the draft. And also, if this episode interests you, you can go back and check out our previous episode where we talked about Chris Jones re-signing and Patrick Mahomes moving some money around to create cap space. And now, at least for some time being, we are aware of what that move was initially. Obviously, we're still waiting for some moves about L'Jarius Sneed, and as we get closer to the draft, what happened there cap-wise. But that's about all we got for you. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Be safe out there. God bless you all. As always, go Chiefs.
Thanks for checking out this update straight from the heart of Chiefs Kingdom. We appreciate your passion, so please leave a like and follow us wherever you tune in from. See you next tailgate, your trusted source for all things Chiefs, Red Kingdom